11-year-old girl who she goes on a school trip and she is forced to share a bed. I hope y'all are listening, with a biological boy. And she's forced to share a bed with a biological boy because some bureaucrat writes this policy that wants everybody to bow to gender ideology and basically treat parents like they're some sort of irrelevant bystanders. And so I want to share this story with you guys because here's what you need to understand. This is exactly where socialism leads and how socialism works. Let me explain. The more that the government, little by little, is inserting themselves into your child's life through all of these free programs and the services like the free childcare, the free food, the free this, the free that, all those policies, the more that happens, the more that the state believes that your child belongs to them. And in this story today, let me share my screen. There is a school district that decided that an 11-year-old girl was going to sleep in a bed with a boy. So today, that's them deciding that for your kid. Tomorrow, it might be something worse. Parents, I need you to listen up. We are in a custody battle. This is a custody battle. And the government, they are fighting to win. And I honestly believe that most parents don't even realize that they're in a custody battle. So I'm about to share this story. Here is exactly what took place in Jefferson County, Colorado. Take a listen to this.
A Colorado family is suing its local school district after they say their 11-year-old daughter was assigned a shared hotel bed on a school trip with a male student who allegedly identified as female. They say the Jefferson County Public School District told parents that boys and girls would be rooming on different floors. But according to the parents, that did not happen. That lawsuit cites the district's policy stating that students' gender identity, not sex assigned at birth, determines where they stay during overnight school trips. Those parents spoke about this case last year, saying their daughter was so distraught with the situation that she hid in a bathroom to call and tell them what was happening.
When I initially got the call, I was frankly in disbelief. As I talked to my wife, she followed up and said, yeah, this is what's happening.
So my daughter was about to climb into bed with this other child.
I felt like we'd been lied to.
She doesn't want to be mean. She doesn't want to be confrontational. She kind of looks up at me and I'll never forget that look on her face. I can picture the room exactly and just like, help me. She and I went back out into the hallway and she said, Mom, I can't do this. Like, this is not going to work.
3 other families are joining the suit with separate grievances. Outnumbered has reached out to the school district for comment. We have not yet heard back on this issue. What makes this so challenging and perhaps frustrating and concerning for a lot of parents is this is a cultural issue that's being discussed among grown-ups, and yet the people being put on the front lines end up being children, like an 11-year-old girl who has suddenly found herself in a bed with someone that she perceives to be and biologically born as a male. And the semantics that go into this ahead of time, which many parents, as these parents thought, were misleading on the part of the school district.
And if you outlined that situation that you just described, that would squarely fall within the criminal code, and that minor or the parents would be prosecuted for that conduct. Here, the school district has made it part and parcel of the fabric of their field trips, their policies, and the lower court ruled that parents do not have the power and authority to dictate school policy, which is absolutely horrifying. And by the way, that atrocious anecdote, that just breaks my heart, that's one of many. There were many different sort of scenarios. For example, a non-binary minor who was in charge of overseeing biological boys, little ones, while they were showering, like the girl that was prevented from participating in activities because she did not want to sleep with a biological male. So look, okay, so the parents are suing, rightly so, and I have no doubt, just like many cases that we've discussed here, that even if the lower court activist judges rule in favor of the school district's massively overstepping their jurisdiction and the bounds of morality, that the Supreme Court will come in and correct this. However, they have not been able to, nor will they, remedy and rectify the psychological abuse and the harm that these children go through. So I won't go through all the legal arguments, but I just want to cite quickly a couple, which is that it violates students' constitutional right to bodily privacy, that the school's hiding or misrepresenting policy that violates their 14th Amendment rights, that using gender identity definitions of boy and girl is unconstitutionally vague, and that schools breach their duty of care. This is the one that I think sort of is the most impactful emotionally. That schools breach their duty of care when they misrepresent safety conditions and overnight supervision to parents.
This is wild. This is wild. So let me just recap what has happened here. You have this group of 11-year-olds, and they are on a school-sponsored trip. And ahead of time, the parents are told, the boys and the girls, they're going to be separated by floor. So all the girls are going to be on one floor, all the boys are going to be on another floor. Well, it comes to find out that was false. Okay, the district, because of this rule that they have, they placed a biological boy who, as you know, he identifies. First of all, these are 11-year-olds. How there's an 11-year-old boy identifying as a girl is beyond me. But they put a biological boy and a girl not just in the same hotel room. They put him in the same room as 3 girls, and then the plan was, he's got to share bed with one of the girls. This was approved by the district. They hid this information and did not inform the parents. So one of the girls, they end up sharing a bed with the boy. She doesn't know, though, until she gets ready to go to bed. She discovers the truth while she's about to get into bed. She panics, goes to the bathroom, calls her mother, who happened, thank goodness, to be one of the chaperones at the trip. But even the mother who is a chaperone, had no idea what the school had done. So it's not just this family. There are a total of 4 families that are suing this Colorado school district, and they absolutely should, because this was not a mix-up. This was not an accident. You guys, this is a policy that they're putting into place, and they're doing it on purpose because they want to prioritize ideology over your child's safety and over observable reality and truth. This story, I wanted to cover this because this matters to every American. You might not think that this impacts you, but this incident exposes it is the mindset that is now running many of the American schools, probably a school that your child goes to, and you're just not privy to it. All of these, they're purposely putting administrators in place that believe that their ideology outranks your parental authority, because they're the ones with the degrees, right? If you think about how, no shade to any of the individuals on this live stream who might be an educator, but this is an observation that I've noticed with a lot of educators, not all. My old school educators, not so much, but depending on when you matriculated in graduate school and were on this educational track, many of them are heavily indoctrinated, and they can't see anything outside of the little box that they learned in school. And you have well-meaning people that you know that will rationalize and explain away this gender ideology because they learned it in school. These people are teaching because they believe, this is a deeply held conviction of theirs, that your child's privacy is negotiable. They believe that their worldview is more legitimate than biology and common sense and your parental instincts. They don't even care about your parental instincts. I keep telling y'all, these people really believe that they share custody of your children. They think this is a group effort. Now, as it relates to this story, what they did to this girl was not a mistake. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, we just put him. No, this is the logical outcome of a system that spends all of its time elevating gender ideology above reality. They did not care that this 11-year-old girl is like, wait, what? He's a boy. I don't care what he identifies as. Like, he got a whole wee-wee. I'm not sleeping in the bed with him. This is traumatic. But what I realized when I came across this story, this moment reveals something so much bigger about the direction that our country is going. When I first started talking about this, I know many of y'all are like, why is April bringing up socialism? Like, what does socialism have to do with this discussion? What I want to do, I'm going to let this finish playing because they're about to explain the legalities of this. But I want to tie this discussion into socialism because it does. It is so related. And this is a new development that I've adopted. After I attended the Frederick Douglass Leadership Conference a couple of weeks ago, there was an attorney who represents families, homeschool families, particularly when they have encounters with Child Protective Services and things of the like. She made this connection between all of the free stuff and socialism and slavery. And I thought it was the most brilliant connection. But let me let this Fox News clip continue to play.
When parents allocate the protection and safety and care of their children into the hands of these adults in the school, it is incomprehensible to think that it has been absolutely mutilated to mean that the abuse and the harm and the horror is coming at their hands, but that's exactly what's happening.
And this is why I keep saying, pull your kids out. Because it is no longer an institution or a place where your children are going to learn ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. This is deeper and broader than that. This is something else. They are overwhelmingly trying to indoctrinate and re-educate your children into a paradigm that we've never seen in American history before. The widespread perversion, and this is a psychological psyop that they are playing on your children, and they are expecting you to just lie down and take it. That's what they're expecting.
And David, I think that Emily really reaches an excellent point here, where you're on the back of a young child. You know, do they trust their instincts, what they believe in their gut, and when they're surrounded by people that are looking at this from a policy issue instead of a humanity issue?
Look, the child knows the truth. But what these officials, I'll use that term, are doing is they're pushing this trans ideology and their own, and they're using, as you said, they're using these kids as the people that they will harm. You make an excellent point. We've talked about it before. The legality of this, I still want to know why there aren't prosecutions under disorderly conduct and other codes that govern. And I think, Emily, you've said it before quite clearly. You know, when it comes to exposing yourself in a locker room, it is not required to have a specific reason or act. The fact that you are exposed is, for most states, a violation of the law. So parents need to be going to the legal side of this and fighting this as well as the civil. That child has probably suffered some psychological effect, hopefully not too much from this. But they really need to focus on using the law. If I expose myself to someone accidentally or otherwise in the state of New York, I'm guilty. That's how the law works.
I want to bring you in on this because one of the lawyers said, Noel Starrett, he's senior counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom, kind of dug into this as far as terms are being used, like the dictionary to terms of things, arguing that essentially parents and the students going on this trip are being misled by what they're being told, because the Jeffco or the school district says boys and girls, what it means is those who identify as such. Is this an issue of clear communication that's not happening between the parents, between the school, and a fallout that really just never should have happened at all?
Well, it's deliberate. deliberate confusion on the school officials' part. They know exactly what they're doing by using this kind of vague language. And to David's point, the reason why parents don't have much recourse legally in this is because the left has successfully included gender ideology in the civil rights agenda. So now the rights of little girls who are being forced to share a bed with male students don't matter more than the rights of the so-called trans-identified student to identify however he wants.
Did you notice how she said the civil rights agenda has included this gender ideology? They've hitched their wagon to it. So this is why you can have a pastor like Jamal Bryant out here fighting for civil rights, and he's fighting for this foolishness too, because they rise and fall together. You can't pick and choose, but hey, well, I only wanted to fight for the blacks. No. You have to fight. You got to take it all together. I want to, you know what? I'm going to do a show. I'm going to do a show one day that actually goes through the language and the verbiage of the Civil Rights Acts and all of the civil rights legislation. And I'm going to expose how we did not need, and when I say we, Black people did not need that civil rights legislation as it was written. There's something else that we could have done to achieve what we ultimately thought we were achieving and not what we ended up getting, which is having our movement or the movement hijacked by people, the feminists and the sodomite community and all of the other perversion, intersectionality, bad actors. I'm going to do a show that covers to explore exactly the statements that Kaylee McGee-White just said. Under the civil rights legislation, so much of this has hitched their wagon to that they make it seem like it is a civil right that's being violated if you don't allow these people to assert themselves and insert themselves into your life, into your spaces. There's nothing you can do about it. Before I played this, I made a statement where I said I wanted to talk about how this story reflects a much deeper problem in the country right now as it relates to socialism. And with the win of, I'd say, Zohran Mamdani in New York City, we've got this steady creep of socialist thinking. It has crept into every institution, particularly the ones that touch your children. And so if you understand the way a socialist system operates, they have one principle. The one who provides is the one who gets to control everything. So when the government is promising you free childcare, free after-school programs, free meals, free education, free healthcare, all of these are services that always comes with strings attached. If you want this free school and you want this free childcare, then that means you need to allow us to do this, that, and the third. We need access to know when are your doctor's appointments and when are your dentist appointments and what kind of food are you feeding them and when are you doing this and have they had their LGBT training for the year and their re-education on this issue. All of these services come with strings attached. You may not see it now, or you may think I'm crazy. Don't believe me, but mark my words. The more that socialism gains ground, the more that parents are going to have to yield ground. And the state is going to assert more and more dominance. And suddenly, before you even realize it, parents are going to find themselves negotiating with government officials as it relates to your children as if y'all are co-parenting. Mark my words. I keep telling you, we do not share custody of our children with the government. I will not do it. Yet this school district in Colorado, they behaved exactly like a socialist institution. They just assumed parental authority. Notice they didn't ask, she didn't sign a consent form. They just took control of their child's privacy. They made a decision about that little girl's sleeping arrangements as if she were a ward of the state without her parents' knowledge. Why? I don't need your parents' permission. You belong to us. This is what socialism produces. The family comes into play a subordinate role to the government. The parents get treated like an inconvenience. You're in the you're in the way. I mean, this is the rule. This is how it is. You don't have to like it, but this is what we're gonna do. Your children end up molded into ideological assets by people who don't share your worldview and who don't intend to push your children out into the world as these well-adjusted citizens. They want to preload them with their worldview. It is modern servitude or modern slavery dressed up as support. They just repackage slavery as support. We're helping you. We're giving you all of the things that you need to raise a family. Don't you need free childcare? Don't you need the free lunch? Don't you need free healthcare? Don't you need all of this the free housing or the subsidized housing? Everything that the government gives you comes with strings attached. This is slavery repackaged as support. Mark my words. All this is government power expanding one policy, one at a time, until your parental rights are just viewed as you just in the way. Your parental rights will be viewed as an obstacle instead of your God-given responsibility. This Colorado case is not just a policy failure. Y'all, this is a preview of what happens when the state believes that it owns the next generation. And this is why they got Head Start. Right? They'll come with the sob story like, well, it is really expensive to raise a family. Like, I've heard women. I was on a panel with a group of women, and I didn't hear not one of these women talk about wanting to be home, raising their own children. But instead, they talked about the obstacle that women face raising children because they don't have free childcare, and they don't have free this, and they don't have free that. And I'm just like, why would you want all of these things given to you by the government? These are things that families used to provide for themselves. It was unconscionable for these women to actually think that women should be married and have a husband, and the husband work, and the wife supports him in that effort by managing and running the home, and that she's the primary caregiver of the children. That concept it was so far beyond and so far removed from them. It was almost like I was a freaking alien on the panel. Because I was the only one, like, am I the only one that don't want government child care? Like, I don't want, what? No, I don't want no free child care. I want to be at home with my kid. That's where I want to be. I don't want to be out working 80 hours a week while someone else raises my kid. Listen, let me speak directly. When it comes to the school district in Colorado, here's what I'll say. They created a policy that undoubtedly disregarded biology, it disregarded parental authority, and nobody gave a darn about the 11-year-old girl's right to safety and dignity. They actually punished her and told her, well, if you don't want to sleep in the bed with Shem, then, you can't participate in any of the other activities. If you watch the rest of the video, she actually got punished because she refused and didn't want to sleep in the bed with the little boy. And I'm calling him a little boy because he's a little boy. I don't care if he identifies as a raccoon. He is a boy. These school administrators exposed a minor child, to confusion and potential danger because they worship identity politics like it's a god, and they shamed her because she didn't want to bow the knee to it. There is something fundamentally broken in a culture where grown adults are enforcing delusion onto children and they want to call it inclusion. They wanted her to be like, I know I'm laying here next to a little boy, but he's really a girl. They wanted her to deny biological reality. There is something twisted when y'all, I'm getting text messages. I don't know how to put this tablet on Do Not Disturb. I don't. So when people send me funny text messages, I'm sorry, y'all. I just got distracted. Listen, this isn't funny, but that text message was. There is something so twisted when your feelings just get pushed aside. And when I say your feelings, I'm talking about the feelings of the confused boy who believes he's a girl. His feelings carry more weight than the privacy of the other 3 little girls that had to share that room with him, and particularly the one that had to share the bed with him. That is something evil where if there are politicians and educators, and they do exist, that are trying to control your children and then telling you to sit down and be quiet, I'm sorry. Let me be clear. No. Not on my watch. Let me find out some foolishness like that is going on in my county. We're going to have some problems. And my kids don't even go to government school. But that is just wrong for any child to have to go through some foolishness like this. The adults in this situation who made these decisions, keep these people away from your children. They don't have any business near children. They should never be trusted with any sort of authority because they abused their authority the moment they wanted that 11-year-old little girl to sleep in the same bed with a biological boy and then make her believe and pretend that he is a girl. That is just wrong. And so I wanted to cover this because Christians, we need to understand this battle over gender is a battle over God's created order. These people are fighting creation. How else do you explain if Genesis 1:27 asserts that God made them male and female, he created them? If God is the one who established these boundaries and God is the one who established such truth and order, these are the institutions that are rebelling against that. They are waging war against God himself, and the children are the ones who have to suffer. That if that doesn't bother you or enrage you enough to be like, well, wait a minute, hold up. Who let the dogs out? Something's wrong. These people are actually getting in the way of Christian parents from doing what the Bible commands us to do, which is to raise our children in the truth and in the fear and admonition of the Lord. That means the state does not have jurisdiction over your child's identity. The state does not have jurisdiction over your child's privacy or your morality. So when a school district thinks that it can override parents, it has literally declared itself. They are a rival authority to God's design. And by biblical admonition, we have to push back. We don't get to sit on the sideline and be like, this is not our fight. We do not share custody of our children with the government, period. So if you are a parent and you are on this live stream, you cannot afford to be passive about this. Because listen, I could easily sit here and tell you, listen, you need to investigate what your school district's policies are. And, if there's an overnight trip, that's going to involve a locker room or dorms and ask them about gender identity. No, I could say that. Or I could just say, you need to figure out a way to get your kids out. Prioritize from this day on forward. What is the plan? Sit down with your family and talk it out. We got to pull our kids out. Because going to the school board meeting, they're not listening to you. We've seen time and time again parents appealing to the school board and the school board rules in opposition of what the parents want. You're sending your kids to them. They are making the rules. They are treating your children like test subjects. And since it doesn't seem like they are trying to be transparent and that they believe that they owe you an explanation, the only thing left for you to do is to pull your children out. Churches need to step up and figure out how are we going to educate our children? Because this is a burden that I know weighs on a lot of parents, especially single parents. They have to figure out, how do I protect my children, but I still got to work and earn a living? My question is, churches are going to have to start having conversations and talking about this. They have to stop avoiding the topic. They can't tiptoe around it. We need to equip families and figure out how to recognize this ideological warfare when they see it, and then come up with a plan, an answer, a solution to say, this is what we're doing instead. Our church has a co-op. Our parents, we're rotating and we're figuring it out. You may have to work, but your sister in the Lord who lives close by, she's homeschooling. Maybe you can enroll your kid in an online program, and your sister in the Lord is just there to make sure the child just, I don't know, something. Talk it, work it out. Because this case out of Colorado, it is not an isolated incident. This is part of a growing movement to fundamentally reshape your child's understanding of identity and what is true and who has authority in their lives. They are trying to shape these children to be like, forget what your mom and daddy said. The school teacher said that he a girl, so it must be true. Here is the truth. Children belong to their parents. They are being shepherded, and parents are stewards over them. They actually belong to God. But parents have a God-given authority, not the government. Parents have God-given authority over children. And so we have to defend our children's future before the state claims and takes ownership of it.